Good morning and welcome to today's lightning live stream. This is a series of super quick live streams about topics that entrepreneurs need to know. Type into the chat box there where you're joining us from today, so we have an idea of where in the world you are. So when we talk about the skills that an entrepreneur must have, pitching skills are definitely a skill that entrepreneurs must have, right? So I have never actually been into Warren Buffett's office. I don't know why he hasn't invited me to come visit, but he hasn't. But you all know Warren Buffett, very famous American entrepreneur and investor. And apparently, if you walk into his office, you will see framed on his office wall not his diploma from Wharton or his diploma for his MBA from Columbia University. But what you will see apparently framed on his office wall is a certificate that he got for a public speaking course that he took in 1952, Dale Carnegie's public speaking course. And Warren Buffett says that public speaking course that he paid $100 for changed his professional life more than his MBA from Columbia did. And so the reality is that, that this ability to talk to strangers, this ability to deliver a crisp, clear, and compelling story turns out to be a super, super important skill for any entrepreneur to have. In startup land, when we think of pitching, we usually think of pitching for money, right? We usually think about going to a meeting with venture capitalists and delivering our awesome pitch and walking out with a giant bag full of money. But the reality is that entrepreneurs are pitching all day long for all kinds of things, right? A great entrepreneur is pitching for customers, for partners, for employees, for a deal with the landlord. That great entrepreneurs are pitching all day long, every day, and so this ability to tell a crisp, clear, and compelling story is super, super important. David Ogilvy, the father of modern advertising, said that in the modern world of business, it is useless to be a creative, original thinker unless you can also sell what you create. And it's just true that, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to have the ability to tell that crisp, clear, and compelling story about what you're working on and why it matters. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you my 10 simple tips to preparing and delivering great pitches. The first tip is to understand that pitching skills are storytelling skills, right? That, it's all about telling a great story. And, there are all kinds of reasons why great entrepreneurs tend to be great storytellers. But fundamentally, the point here I want to make with regard to pitching is that when you ask what makes for a great pitch, the answer is telling a great story. And so whatever you do, don't go out and get a pitch deck template. Don't go Google around and find yourself a pitch deck template and think that that's the way to start. Because it ain't about the pitch deck, actually. It's about the story. And you're not going to get that by finding some pitch deck template. Also, don't go and hire a designer for your pitch deck. Investors don't invest in slides, in pretty slides. Investors invest in people. And so do me a favor, don't find a pitch deck template somewhere and don't go out and spend money on hiring a designer. That's not what this is all about. And in fact, I like to start by writing out the story first, because, the problem is a lot of people start by building slides and then try to figure out what story the slides tell. And to me, it's better off doing it the other way around, meaning start by writing out the story, start by figuring out what the story is. And then if you develop a great story, then building some slides to back up the story shouldn't be that hard, right? The next point number 4, is that in your story, if this is a fundraising pitch that you're delivering, in your story needs to be, why are you exactly the right entrepreneur for this venture? This is a key thing, right? If this is a fundraising pitch, remember that investors don't invest in slides, they invest in people. And one of the things they're looking for is to invest in a founder who is passionate, a founder who is driven, a founder who has tenacity, and a founder who will see this thing through to success. And an indicator for all those things is this notion that you are exactly the right entrepreneur for this venture. And so, if you've got a startup venture that is developing technology to help people who have a hearing disability, then and you grew up with a brother who was deaf, and that's the reason why you're so passionate about this, then lead with that, right? Why are you exactly the right entrepreneur for this venture? That's got to be in your story. And 9 times out of 10, it should be the lead in your story. So some of the other things that might be in your story, if this is a fundraising pitch, is what problem are you solving? What's your secret sauce? How will your venture make money? How does the current competitive landscape look? How big is the opportunity? How are you going to efficiently acquire customers? And what are your initial capital needs, and what milestone does that get you to? Again, every venture is different. Every entrepreneur is different. So every story will be a little bit different. But these are some of the things that might go into your story, your fundraising pitch, right? And by the way, I'll be sending out to you all an email after this that'll give you all of this stuff and some resources as well. Number 5, keep it short. A great pitch is 8 slides, 3 minutes, right? That's a great pitch. Nobody wants to sit through an hour worth of slides. So even if you have an hour appointment with somebody, don't walk in with an hour worth of slides. Walk in with 3 minutes worth of slides and then say, I'd love to dive deeper into whatever part of this you'd like to dive deeper into. Keep your initial pitch short. Also keep it simple, right? That simple stories are always the most compelling. So please don't do this, right? Don't do this. And please don't ever, ever do this. Keep your story simple and keep your slides simple. I once had a really great experience, which is that I walked into a venture capitalist's office with my awesome pitch deck. And I'd given the exact same pitch deck. I delivered the same pitch deck to another VC the previous day. And they had absolutely loved my slides. They loved everything that I showed. And then they referred me to this second VC firm. And so I walked into the second VC firm thinking that I was hot shit. I had my slides ready to go and I was going to show my awesome slides. And I sat down and this lead VC in the room said to me, he said, close that goddamn laptop up. I'm so sick and tired of entrepreneurs who come in here and show me pretty slides. What I want to know is, can you tell me using words and words alone why what you're working on is so interesting that I would want to invest? And it was a great lesson for me, right? That you have to be able to tell the story on its own. So, the slides, if you can tell a story on its own, then having some nice slides that back up your story while you're talking, that's great. But if you can't deliver the story without having slides, then you need to work on the story some more. Number 8. Your desired outcome from a pitch is to leave the recipient wanting to know more, right? That's your desired outcome. You're not going to sell the deal on one pitch. You're not going to give a 3-minute pitch and walk away with money. And so the desired outcome from an initial pitch is to leave the recipient wanting to hear more. So maybe you contact somebody and they say, that's interesting. Can you send me a deck? And then you send them the deck. What is your desired outcome? Your desired outcome is for them to email you back saying, that looks interesting. We should have a meeting. That's your desired outcome, right? Or if you have a meeting and you walk in and you have that first meeting, your desired outcome from your pitch is to have a second meeting, right? Again, you're not going to sell a deal in one meeting. And so realize that your desired outcome from any pitch is to leave the recipient wanting to hear more. If you give your pitch and at the end they say, okay, thanks for coming in today, that's a bad sign. You want to leave them wanting to know more. Know who you're pitching to, right? So I once had the experience. This is totally, talking about a cringeworthy experience. Here's a cringeworthy experience for you. I was sitting in a room and for a pitch meeting. Fortunately, I was not part of the pitch meeting, but I was in the room. And one of the lead VCs in the room, one of the lead investors in the room, was a woman who had a PhD in artificial intelligence. And the entrepreneur who came in to pitch us was this young dude. And he sits down and he turns to this woman and says, "So I don't know how much you know about AI, so I'll try to keep this pretty simple. She's got a PhD in artificial intelligence," and he already just insulted her. So the point is, know who you're pitching to. And we live in an era where it's so easy to look people up on LinkedIn, right? So before you have a pitch meeting, make sure you ask who's going to be in the meeting. Look them all up on LinkedIn. It's so easy. You will save yourself great embarrassment. So know who you're pitching to. Relax and slow down. So here's the thing, is that all of us get nervous in a pitch situation, right? And the natural tendency is that when we get nervous, we start talking fast. And once you start talking fast, you lose the audience. And so relax and slow down. And here is probably the most important thing I'm going to say to you this morning. Learn the power of the pause. When you pause, you have the attention of the entire room, right? And so relax, slow down, and learn the power of the pause. So those are my 10 quick and easy tips for preparing and delivering great pitches. Remember that it's all about storytelling skills. Don't use a pitch deck template, and don't go out and hire a designer. Start by writing out the story. It's all about the narrative. So for me, start there rather than starting by building slides. Incorporate somewhere in your story, why are you exactly the right entrepreneur for this venture? It's an important thing to communicate. Keep it short, keep it simple, be able to tell the story without slides, right? Leave them wanting to hear more, know who you're pitching to, relax, and slow down. If anybody's got any specific questions, type them there into the chat box. But the main thing I want to leave you with is I just want to reiterate one more time that it's really all about storytelling skills. Because the reality is that humans love great stories, right? It's in our DNA that for millennia, humans have been all about storytelling, right? That's what humans love, is we love storytelling. Our entire judicial system is built around the idea that one guy tells his story, the other guy tells his story, and the judge decides whose story he likes best, right? And so it's all about storytelling skills. Every great entrepreneur has the ability to tell a crisp, clear, and compelling story about what she's working on and why it matters. So that's this morning's lightning live stream on preparing and delivering great pitches. If you have any questions, anything I can help with, please shoot me an email anytime to brett@fourthly.com. Thanks very much to you all. Hope everybody has a great day and a great rest of the week.